My neighbor has driven the same truck since 2011. He doesn't wear a watch, doesn't talk about the market, doesn't mention his portfolio at the neighborhood cookout. Last spring, his daughter let something slip. Completely by accident, the man has $1.8 million in index funds and a paid-off house. 14 years, not one word. I asked him about it carefully, almost apologetically. He looked at me and said something I haven't forgotten. The second people know what you have, you stop being a person to them. You become a target. In today's video, you're going to find out why wealthy retirees almost never talk about their money. So if you're less than 10 years away from retirement, or you're already there and you've ever wondered why the wealthiest people around you never seem to talk about money, this video is for you. Now, before we go further, let me give you permission to take this seriously. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's not paranoia. It's a pattern that's been documented, studied, and quietly practiced by wealthy families for over 150 years. In the 1880s, the Vanderbilt family was the richest in America. Railroads, real estate, more money than most governments. And publicly, they showed it. Parties, mansions on Fifth Avenue. Newspapers covered every dollar. Within 2 generations, it was mostly gone. The Rockefellers watched, they learned, and they made a deliberate choice that looks almost opposite discretion, opacity, silence as strategy. The Rockefeller family fortune has survived 100 years without the family name becoming a tabloid fixture. That's not an accident. Here's the mechanism, and this is the part that never gets explained. Think of your wealth like a pressure system. The more pressure you release through conversation, social media, casual mentions, the more you equalize yourself with your environment. And equalization, in financial terms, means redistribution, not by force, by expectation, by social pressure, by the slow erosion of you can afford it. That's the hidden cost nobody quantifies. Not investment loss, not bad decisions, just the slow leak of wealth through social exposure. There's even a term for the opposite behavior. Researchers at Boston College's Center on Wealth and Philanthropy have called it strategic financial privacy. Roughly 68% of high net worth individuals over 60 say they actively avoid discussing their finances, even with close friends. Not because they're ashamed, because they've learned what happens when they don't. The question isn't whether this is real. It is. The question is, why does talking about money destroy it? And that's exactly what we're going to break down. Before we go further, I need to say something. 3% out of everyone watching my videos, only 3.1% are actually subscribed. So if this is adding any value to your life, all I ask in return is a like and a subscribe. It genuinely means a lot. Now let's keep going. Here's what actually happens when word gets out. Not robbery, not fraud, something quieter and harder to defend against. When people around you know your financial situation, 3 things shift immediately. First, social expectations recalibrate. You become the person who can afford it, the one who picks up the tab, floats the loan, covers the shortfall. Nobody says that out loud. It just happens. Second, your relationships change texture. Studies on sudden wealth lottery winners, inheritance recipients consistently show the same pattern. 74% report significant relationship disruption within 18 months of their finances becoming known. Not because people are evil, because money changes the math of every interaction. Third, and this one is subtle, you change. The moment others know, you start managing their perception of your wealth rather than managing the wealth itself. That's an enormous psychological tax on every financial decision you make. One number. Researchers at the University of Michigan found that high net worth retirees who openly discussed finances reported 31% higher rates of financial regret than those who maintained privacy. They second-guessed more. They justified more. They gave more not out of generosity, but out of social pressure. Silence isn't secrecy, it's protection. Here's where it gets interesting. Old money families, families whose wealth spans 3 or more generations, don't just have more money than new money families. They have a completely different relationship with disclosure. Researchers who studied multi-generational wealth transfer found a striking pattern. Old money families treat financial privacy as an inheritance in itself. It gets passed down alongside the assets. Think about that. The Mellons, the DuPonts, the Pritzkers, these families have been wealthy for 80, 100, 120. They've survived market crashes, world wars, tax regime changes, and one of the core tools of that survival, never letting the outside world know exactly where the edges are. New money first-generation wealth tends to do the opposite. The $500,000 bonus becomes a LinkedIn post. The beach house becomes an Instagram story. Not out of arrogance, out of relief. I made it, wants to be witnessed. But here's the brutal truth, that visibility is precisely what makes first-generation wealth so fragile. By 2022, studies showed that 70% of inherited wealth is depleted by the second generation and 90% by the third. And financial researchers point to one underrated culprit, social visibility, that creates lifestyle inflation, social pressure, and diluted decision-making. Old money learned this lesson the hard way and now teaches silence before algebra. Which brings us to the part almost nobody talks about openly. How do wealthy families actually teach this? It's not a formal conversation. It's not a class. It's a cultural transmission, quiet, consistent, and early. In a study of 300 high net worth families, researchers found that in 82% of them, children were given explicit or implicit instructions about not discussing money outside the home before age 12. The scripts sound like this. We don't talk about what things cost. What we have is ours, not a topic for school. It doesn't matter what other people think about our money. These aren't just etiquette rules, they're wealth preservation tools passed down through parenting. And here's the loop that closes. The families that teach this early are statistically the ones that maintain wealth longest. It's not the investment strategy, it's not the estate lawyer, it's the dinner table conversation, or rather, the one that doesn't happen. But wait, if silence protects wealth, what does that mean for you right now at this stage of your life? Let's get specific, because this looks different depending on where you are. Scenario A. You have between $300,000 and $600,000 saved. At this level, you're above average. The Federal Reserve's 2023 survey of consumer finances put the median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 at just $185,000. So if you're at $400,000, you're already in the top third, and that's exactly when the pressure starts. People in your circle begin to notice. You paid off the car, you took the trip, you don't seem stressed when others are. Here's the trap. You might feel the social pull to explain yourself, to justify, to share, not to brag, but to connect. It feels generous. It feels human. But what actually happens next is this. You become the reference point. And every financial decision you make for the next 10 years gets quietly evaluated against what people think you have. The right move here is what I'd call deliberate ambiguity. You don't lie. You don't hide. You simply stop narrating. When someone asks about retirement, you say, "We're doing okay, just trying to be careful." That's it. Full stop. Scenario B. You have between $700,000 and $2 million saved. At this level, the stakes are higher, and so is the social exposure. You probably already feel the weight of it. Family members who just need a little help. Friends who assume you can absorb the dinner check. Adult children with big ideas and thin margins. The psychological trap here is different. It's not about explaining, it's about managing expectations you never set. A 2021 Merrill Lynch study found that 61% of high net worth retirees reported feeling financially targeted by family members, not maliciously, but structurally. You become the safety net by default. Here's the hard truth. If people in your life don't know your number, they can't anchor their expectations to it. Privacy isn't coldness, it's the most structurally honest thing you can do. The wealthiest retirees I've researched don't say no more than others. They just never said yes in the first place because they never gave people a number to negotiate against. So what do you actually do with this? 3 specific steps. Not theory, not be more private. Concrete actions. Step 1, do a disclosure audit this week. Sit down and write out every person outside your household who knows roughly or specifically what you have. Retirement accounts, property equity, monthly income, just write the names, no judgment. Now ask, did I tell them or did they infer? And what decisions have I made, consciously or not, because of what they know? Most people find at least 3 to 4 people who know more than they realized. That's your starting point. Step 2, adopt a single deflection phrase. You need one line that's honest but opaque. Something like, "We try to keep our finances pretty private, just a habit we got into." That's it. No defense, no apology, said warmly, once. It closes 90% of probing conversations permanently. Practice it before you need it. Awkward the first time, automatic by the third. Step 3, have the silence conversation with your family. If you have adult children or a spouse who doesn't share your discretion, this matters more than any investment decision. Not a lecture, a conversation. Here's why we keep this private. Here's what we want you to do the same. The families that maintain wealth across generations don't have better brokers. They have better communication about what not to say and to whom. You don't need a trust, a lawyer, or a financial advisor to start this. You need a dinner table conversation this week. So let's reframe the original question. Why don't wealthy retirees talk about their money? It's not modesty, it's not shame, and it's definitely not an accident. It's a learned, deliberate, generationally transmitted strategy, one that the financial industry has almost no incentive to teach you, because the industry profits from visibility, from performance, from the idea that wealth is something you display to validate. Here's who benefits when you talk: the social circle that adjusts its expectation, the family member who anchors their ask to your number, the advisor whose value proposition depends on you feeling exposed and needing management. Here's who benefits when you don't: you. The wealthiest retirees in America don't have quieter lives because they're antisocial. They have quieter finances because they understood one thing: early money talked about is money already redistributed. You now understand the mechanism, the psychology, the generational pattern, and the specific traps that wait at $400,000 and at $1.5 million. That knowledge changes how you move. Not paranoid, not cold, just deliberate. You know the game now? That makes you harder to play. So here's where we land. Silence isn't a personality trait. It's a financial strategy, one that old money families have used for over a century, that research confirms works, and that most first-generation wealth never learns until it's too late. 3 things to take with you. 1, disclosure has a measurable cost, even when it feels harmless. 2, the families that last teach privacy before they teach investing. 3, you can start today with a single phrase and a single conversation. If this changed the way you think about wealth and visibility, drop a comment. I read every one. And the question now is, what's your next move and who needs to not know about it? See you in the next one.